Well, we're having another wildly entertaining overseas game over here. Where is this game today? Is it in London? I'm not sure where this game is, but 13-6 Washington. There's been a couple plays for fantasy football. I mean, DK Mecalf able to get in the end zone once, which is good. I mean, Deebo Samuel, his effectiveness in fantasy really boils down to if he gets in the end zone or not. So it was good to see him get in. I will tell you this, though. I've been a lot correct so far on my prediction with the Washington Commanders defense being a solid play. I really do think they're going to end up being a pretty solid play this week for fantasy football. They've already got, I think, last time I checked, I think they had like 9 points. So, I mean, that's pretty solid. So, yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how this one unfolds in the fourth quarter. So, I guess we will just keep an eye on things over here. I've got it pulled up on a separate screen, so I'm able to answer questions and kind of keep an eye on the game here. But, of course, we're here to answer a bunch of Week 11 fantasy football questions before everything starts out today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and show your support. And I think now is the best time, just in case you don't get a question answered, go post a start-sit poll on our site, fsroundup.com. You can see it right here. It's completely free to vote, completely free to start your own poll. So that's what I would recommend you go ahead and do right now. Nathaniel Perez, what's going on in here? Good to see you. Warren or Swift as my RB2 today? So they're both good options. I think that they both have matchups that I think are just a little bit different. I think Swift is definitely at a disadvantage. It's interesting. The Vikings are favored today, which I find to be interesting considering how bad they look right now as an offense and kind of the faith that they're losing in J.J. McCarthy. But I think that also speaks to a couple different things. Number one, Minnesota having the home field advantage. That's a big deal in Minnesota. And number two, they're a well-run operation. Like, I think they'll get it back on the right track this week. And so, Swift, I do think is probably at a disadvantage from a matchup perspective versus Jaylen Warren, who I think that Jaylen Warren, one thing that's been kind of interesting this week is a lot of people have thought I underranked Warren this week. I like him. I mean, I think Warren's a good play this week. Don't get too caught up on the official ranking in my entire rankings, but I think that he's going to be a good play. And I would play him over Swift. I think that his matchup against the Bengals is too good. And listen, I mean, I think I put it in the running backs video yesterday that I think Kenneth Gainwell could be used, but I mean, Warren has clearly been the RB1 in Pittsburgh, and his floor is pretty safe. So I do think that Jaylen Warren is the better play between him and DeAndre Swift. That's what I would personally end up doing. Miami going nowhere. Oh, no. Achane is so good, man. Devon Achane, he's just a really good player. Juan Deere, appreciate the super chat. Question above. Okay, here we are. Start two. ETN, Swift, Devonta, Judkins. I already had Henderson go off, so I need a decent floor. Yeah, so I think that, I mean, the thing with ETN, man, like, ETN does have a pretty stable floor. It's just not exciting, right? Like, there's no chance that ETN's going to come out and give you 25 points today against the Chargers. Swift, I would say, actually has a really stable floor today as well. Now, his matchup, as I was just saying, a little bit tougher versus the Minnesota Vikings. But, DeAndre Swift has done pretty well for fantasy football, ever since the bye week. So I do view him as a pretty stable floor option this week as well. Devonta Smith is definitely not the greatest floor. And I think that Devonta has done really well over the last several weeks, but he also does have those weeks where they don't target him enough or it just doesn't work out. So I don't feel like Devonta Smith is probably the safest floor. And I don't think Judkins is either, actually. So if it was me personally, and I was looking to just get a really stable floor, I think that ETN or Swift is the guy. And if I had to decide between the two, I'm going to personally go with the better offense. Because, again, I think that they both have similar floors to each other. to where they both could, do 10 points on the like low end, maybe 8 points on the low end. And I think that when it comes to when they're both kind of at the same stable baseline of floor, then let's go for upside, right? So you're looking for a stable floor play. I think they both provide that, but I think then it comes down to upside, which I think is definitely in Swift's favor. I think Swift can go for 20 to 25 easily in any matchup because the Bears have a well-run offense. Achane stopped at the 1 or 2 yard line, 3rd and goal right now. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I would personally go ahead and play Swift. And then I would also play ETN as the 2 options. I think your floor options are there with both ETN and Swift. Appreciate the super chat. That is how you get your question answered right away. You can jump the line by doing a super chat, but we will continue rolling. Rolling Force, what's going on? Dak or Herbert, Schultz, Otten, or Freiermuth? So the quarterback situation, they both have good matchups today. And that's the thing I like about both. Okay, so touchdown Miami. Ollie Gordon gets in the end zone. So not Devon Achane. Now it's looking like it's going to be knotted up if they can make the extra point. So 13-13 potentially here in this overseas game. So I think that, I think that Herbert, personally for me, probably has a safer floor than Dak. But Dak's upside is probably similar to Herbert. And that's, I think, a key thing is that, Dak has had big games, right? And he can do that. He can do it again, especially this week against the Raiders. But his floor is probably not as stable as Herbert's is. He has weeks where he has 8 points. And there's other weeks where he gets you 28 or 31 points that we're going through right now. He can give you 12 points, though. Dak is not always the most stable play. And I think that Herbert, if you look at him on the other hand, maybe things change, right? Maybe things change with their weakened offensive line. We've only seen them play one game post Joe Alt. But to me personally, I think that Herbert looks really good, and he's hot right now. And the Dallas Cowboys they don't have momentum right now. So to me personally, I'd personally play Justin Herbert. And then the tight end question, Otten, Freiermuth, or Schultz. I think that Freiermuth is out for me personally. I think that Freiermuth is just, when you're dealing with 2 other tight ends, that's the problem. Is ultimately people have been talking a lot about DK Metcalf this week. Well, the reason is because he is not that involved because they involve the tight ends more. So it's not necessarily the problem with the other wide receivers. It's the tight end issue. Well, Freiermuth in most weeks leads the tight ends in targets, but it's just not enough. So I don't like to compete with other tight ends in the room. I just personally this morning added Dalton Schultz to my dynasty team, and I'm playing him over Njoku because of the fact that Njoku is dealing with Harold Fannin. And the only reason I was going to do that is because Sam Laporta got put on the IR yesterday. That was a big bummer for my dynasty team. But I think Schultz is a really good play this week. I also think Otten is too. I mean, to me, Otten is the best play because out of necessity, that's just what's going on in Tampa right now, is out of necessity, Cade Otten has been a very involved piece in this offense. So, and he's playing with Baker. And obviously we know Baker's a good quarterback. Now, the only concern today is the weather, but there's just more targets that Schultz has to fight through. So for me personally, I'm going to go with Otten, and I'm going to go with Herbert. Tyler Sperry, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here, man. A Rams defense versus Seahawks or Falcons defense versus the Panthers. Yeah, I think that from a defensive perspective, right, the Rams defense is very good, and they've done pretty well for the most part in fantasy this season. The matchup today is less than ideal, and I'll give you kind of some personal story here is that I'm playing the Seahawks defense against the Rams today, Not because I really want to, because of matchup, but because I don't want to let the Seahawks defense go. And I know that they could have a big week against anybody. The Rams defense is not exactly like that. Like the Rams defense, they can get sacks, but they're not like as dominant as the Seahawks defense. And the Seahawks offense has done really well. So I'm not super excited to play the Rams defense, to be honest with you. The Falcons defense, I've been saying this for a long time, and I think it's true. The Falcons defense is boom or bust. Like, the Falcons defense, what you have to understand is their floor is really low. I mean, think of what just happened in the earlier game this year when they played the Panthers. Like, they got absolutely walloped and had 0 points. 30-0 was that score. So, there's just not good history this season with the Falcons being a consistent play, but they've had really, really, really good games. So they can give you like dominant 20-point performances, but it's harder to tell. To me, I'd rather take the shot on that this week because the Panthers looked really bad offensively, and I don't trust Bryce Young enough to be scared off by the Falcons too much this week. I'd go with the Falcons defense personally if it was my team. Appreciate the super chat, man. Alias, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Got offered Baker and Puka for my McBride and London. My other quarterback is Bo, and the other tight end is Njoku. Okay, so you got offered Baker and Puka for McBride and London. So the other tight end being Njoku, you'll be fine with Njoku. I was looking at it again this morning when I first made the move. On my own dynasty. For those who missed it, I made a dynasty move this morning on my own team. Sam Laporta got put on the IR, so I moved him to the IR, and I went ahead and added Dalton Schultz to my team, and I'm starting him over Njoku today. But when I was looking at the game logs for both of those guys, like Njoku has done, like he's had some big moments, but the reality is he actually hasn't had many bad weeks. Like he's been, for the most part, pretty solid when he's played. So I don't think Njoku is like the worst thing you could have as your tight end one. Probably not the best thing though. There's definitely some down weeks in here. Like he's given a couple 3-point performances, 5-point performances. But the bottom line remains this, that you're getting consistent targets with Njoku as the tight end 1 or tight end 2 on a weekly basis. So I'm not super afraid of having that. And obviously getting Puka is great. And your other quarterback being Bo Nix. I've said this a lot over the last couple of weeks. For those of you who have gotten team breakdowns from me before, you know that my thing is not having 2 quarterbacks on a roster in most formats. Like if you're in a 6 bench spot league, that's just not enough bench spots for me to justify having 2 quarterbacks on the roster unless you have a Bo Nix or a Jordan Love type of player. And even Dak. Dak is kind of in that category too. And I think that my point being is that with Bo Nix, I'm okay with having 2 quarterbacks. I am okay with that. Marcus Mariota just ripped off a 40-yard run, by the way. Pretty sweet. I'm okay with having 2 quarterbacks on your roster. And Baker is obviously more of a steady play. But Bo has the higher ceiling. So I think it really comes down to, McBride is definitely going to be, in my opinion, McBride's really good. Moving forward in fantasy, he's going to set a lot of teams apart in fantasy football. So I love having Puka, man. I really do. I'm a little reluctant to give up McBride. I really am. Dude, ever since they switched to Jacoby Brissett, McBride's ceiling is freaking huge because he finally has a quarterback who could see over the line of scrimmage. He can give him end zone targets now. So McBride, man, I have trouble giving McBride up, to be honest with you. And getting Puka's great, and you're helping your quarterback position. Honestly, man, I don't feel like I can give you a really good answer until I see the rest of your team, to be honest with you. If you want to drop your team in the comments as well, I could probably give you better advice, but This one feels too close. It feels too team specific for me to just say blanket statement, yes, I would take it, or no, I wouldn't take it. Because giving up McBride is tough right now for me personally. Because Jacoby Brissett really changed the game for McBride. I mean, he's already changed the game for Marvin, and he is changing the game for McBride too. So it's tough, man, honestly. Because I love Puka too, but I feel like I need to see the rest of your team, to be honest, first. So I'll give you a couple minutes to, put the rest of your team in the chat. Deebo Samuel picked up the first, so it's first and goal at about the 5 or 4 yard line. Yeah, so I do think that I need to see your full team before I can really give you a definitive answer. So I'll give you a minute. Appreciate the super chat, man. I will come back to you if you put your full team in the chat. Tyler Sperry, appreciate the super chat. I could play the Seahawks defense, but I have Stafford and Kyron on that same team. So Seahawks, Rams, or Falcons defense. Yeah, I remember we talked about this actually during the week. Earlier this week, I think you had mentioned that to me, that you had Kyron and Matt Stafford. Here's the problem, right? Is that if you only had Kyron Williams, I wouldn't have a problem playing the Seahawks. Because if Kyron gets one touchdown and 60 or 70 yards on the ground, that won't affect the Seahawks' day in fantasy football from a defensive perspective. That's not going to really be a massive impact to what they can produce in fantasy. However, Matt Stafford, we all know this. He's having an MVP year this year because he's throwing 3 to 4 touchdowns a game. Well, that changes the game. There's only one way or another it can go for the Seahawks defense and Matt Stafford, which is either Matt Stafford has a really good day and the Seahawks defense doesn't, or the Seahawks defense has a really good day and Matt Stafford doesn't. Either way, having them both in the same lineup is not an ideal thing. When it comes to having a defense going up against an offensive piece that you have on your fantasy team, ordinarily, it doesn't matter as much if it's a running back, a tight end, or a wide receiver. If it's a quarterback, though, that definitely makes a difference. So I don't like to hedge my bet on that. So I would personally just go ahead and stick with the Falcons defense in your situation because, the Rams defense, again, I just don't have enough confidence in them this week. I'd rather play the big upside with the Falcons. Appreciate the super chat, man. Alias, I think I'm still waiting on yours if you come back with it. Adrian, man, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Hola, Ryan. I added Gabe, wide receiver, 14 league, gut feeling. That's interesting. Well, I mean, listen, you could be very right. I mean, first of all, going with your gut is always a good move. Adrian, you've been with me long enough to know that, I'm a big proponent of go with your gut. And what did we hear last night? I was on X last night, just scrolling through, and then I see Keon Coleman is a healthy scratch today. And I'm like, bro, what am I missing here? There's clearly something going on. I'm not big on social media. I saw someone comment on the post that Dov Kleiman made that, he's in a lot, he's in the strip club often. So, I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe someone could verify it. I'm not on social media much, so I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, clearly something is going wrong. I mean, throughout the week, they were making a bunch of wide receiver moves. So it would appear that Keon Coleman is on the fritz, and him becoming a healthy scratch today is definitely a bad sign. So I think that move could pay off. I really do. Because, think of what Keon's been doing. Keon has basically been an inconsistent big play threat for this team. Right, so Gabe Davis, if he has anything left in the tank, he could fill those shoes because he's done it before with Josh Allen. So I like where your head's at, honestly. Appreciate the super chat. Alias, okay, appreciate the super chat. Quarterback, Bo, RB, Genty, Vidal, Bam Knight, Hampton on IR. Wide receivers, London, Debo, Tucker, Worthy, Golden, Jaden Higgins, Godwin, Travis Hunter on IR. Tight end Likely and Njoku. Okay. So you have in the theory that we would give up McBride. That's what the tight end room would look like. Is that you've got Njoku and Likely as your 2 tight ends, which I don't have a problem with on the surface. Like, if we only had those 2 guys just off the cuff, that wouldn't bother me as much. It's the giving up McBride piece that I'm struggling with, to be honest with you. Giving up McBride is definitely a struggle here. Your wide receivers, London, because you're gonna replace London with Puka, so you're not getting like. I mean, it's an upgrade, but is it that much of an upgrade? I'm not certain of that. You really do need another quarterback with Bo Nix, though. That's tough, man. That really is tough. I just don't feel like it's equal value, to be honest with you. I think that's what I'm struggling with, is you're giving up 2 top-end players for 1, and then you're basically getting a need, which is fine, but like from a value perspective, that's what's not sitting well with me. You're giving up Drake London, who is at times like last 3 weeks, what has he been? One of the more dominant wide receiver ones in fantasy. Now, I've always said this, in my opinion, I would love to have him as my wide receiver 2. He's my ideal wide receiver 2 in fantasy, but I don't have a problem having him as my wide receiver 1 because his ceiling is so dang high. But getting Baker just doesn't feel like the equivalent of giving away London and McBride. Like, that just is what feels off to me. So if it was my team, I would be like, we can work with this trade, but we gotta change the values here. Either I'm not giving you London in addition to McBride, or or you need to give me more than Baker. Like, you need to give me, and I'm not saying he has like Drake May or he has, somebody like Justin Herbert, for example, but that's kind of what I'm getting at, is the value is just off with this, and I do think that it needs to be adjusted. So I would personally, like, assuming he doesn't have like either Justin Herbert or Drake May, if he does, I would try to switch out Baker for that. But if he doesn't have either of those guys, I would just say, hey, listen, like, I'm not giving you London and McBride to make this deal happen. Like, to me, Baker is worth, Baker to me is going to be worth somebody like Deebo Samuel or Amari and Hampton or someone like that. That to me makes the most sense. Because it just doesn't make sense for you to give up 2 elite players for 1 elite player and a quarterback that has done okay, but he's not been an elite quarterback from any stretch of the imagination this weekend or this year. So that's what I would do. I would tinker with the values here. Appreciate the super chat, man. Appreciate you updating me on your situation. Our Dim Star, man, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Gonna start listening to you on starting Waddle. Benched Dunze and Sutton for him. Happy Sunday, go Bucks, even though my opponent has Baker. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're a Bucks fan. I forgot about that. Yeah, Bucks are, I don't know, man. You could be in luck from a fantasy perspective because today, let's get an update on the weather. All I do know is that it was looking like it was going to be nasty when I checked it earlier this week. So let's look it up. Bills, Bucks, weather. Temperatures peaking in the low 40s with a chance of rain and snow showers with wind gusts as high as 41 miles an hour. Holy hell, man. That's high. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of wind, man. Yeah, Baker's got a strong arm, so like I don't worry about him as much in that kind of weather, but I will say it could be more of a run-heavy game for both teams. So, and Buffalo's in a must-win. So you could luck out from a fantasy perspective, man. And yeah, with Waddle, man, I just feel like I've got this team nailed. Like, Miami out of their element, it's just, like, they're not the same if they're not at home or they're not in a dome. Now, this is a dome game, but it is overseas. Like, that changes the game for every team. So, Miami just got the ball back. They're on their own 2-yard line. Washington went for it on 4th, and they didn't get it. So, it's tied 13-13 with about 6 minutes left. Let's see what Miami can do right here before I answer the next question. Okay, they get Ollie Gordon ripping off a big, 20-yard run here. So they've got plenty of room to work with now. Appreciate the super chat, man. Jared, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Yo, hope you're doing good. You as well. Need one running back, one flex. Vidal, RJ Harvey, Tyrone Tracy, Tez Johnson, Parker Washington. Thanks for your help as always. You betcha, man. Okay, so I think for me personally, where I have to start with is that I have to say it again. I think Vidal is a really solid play this week. Like, Kamani Vidal, to me, I've got no issues with putting him in my starting roster for another week straight. The only concern I have is that, I mean, we've discussed it a decent amount, which is that clearly there has been a Jekyll and Hyde situation going on with Vidal. Like, Kamani Vidal has been good in certain weeks and then bad the next. So, like, last week, on week where he had 17 points against the Steelers. Previous week, he had 3 points, right? And that's like a week-crushing performance. Week 8, 17 points. Week 8 was 19 points. And week 7 was 7.5. Not a crushing week, but not great. Week 6, 22.8. So, like, he's had, like, exactly that trend of, like, on one game, off the next. Waddle just dropped a big pass on second down. Yikes. Yeah, so, I mean, I think Vidal against Jacksonville, I'll take him to break the curse, break the pattern, because I think that Jacksonville they're going down. Like, I think they're going down fast. You know, people don't realize this, and I haven't talked about it enough this week, but I should be talking about it. So I'm glad we can talk about it now. This weekend has tons of playoff implications. Tons. Los Angeles Chargers, if they win today, I think their playoff percentage is like 90% today. If they lose, it's like 50%. So, like, they're in a must-win. Los Angeles Chargers are. It's a competitive division, and they need to lock up a win today. Chiefs, massive playoff implications for them. Broncos, massive divisional implications for them. Like, there's tons of situations where there's lots of implications that heavily impact playoff races. Bears, Vikings, like, that's a big one. There's tons of them. And this is one of those games where the Chargers need a win. And in my opinion, Jacksonville they're getting weaker on defense, by the way. I think, to me, Vidal, I'm going to take him to break the curse this week. So I'll go with Vidal, personally, as one of them. And for me, personally, the other end is going to be either RJ Harvey or Tez. Because for me, Parker Washington doesn't give me the upside that those other guys give me. And I get it. Last week, he actually was good. But, you know, the thing with it is that with Parker Washington, he had his big week because he scored a special teams touchdown. You know, this score on FSRounded.com, our site, you can see these numbers for free. This score right here is accurate. He had 1 touchdown receiving, but what it's not counting is that he had another touchdown from a special teams perspective. So, like, he is not in great position to give you upside much. So I'm going to rule him out. Tracy as well doesn't give me the upside. In this matchup today versus the Packers, I don't see it. So it's either going to be RJ or Tez. And the way I look at it is that with RJ Harvey, there's now a necessity for them to use him. And I have said, like, the only concern I have about RJ Harvey is that they could, in theory, like, continue this split backfield situation. But here's the way to look at it, right? Like, Denver has already been adding in RJ Harvey on a consistent basis. And now there's a necessity for him to play a lot because they're not gonna make Tyler Bidet the lead back, or Jaleel McLaughlin, the lead back today. Like, it's going to be the majority of RJ Harvey. And I do think in this competitive of a game, I'd rather go with that than I would with Tez Johnson, who, again, could be dealing with a weather problem today. So I'll go with RJ Harvey as the flex, and I'll go with Kamani Vidal as the running back. Appreciate the super chat, man. Our Dimstar, appreciate the super chat. Otten or Loveland? Pretty clear Otten to me, only because of the necessity to throw him the ball. When you look at Chicago last week, like, Loveland had 4 targets, and that's the dirty, little secret here with Chicago is that Otten has upside. Or, I'm sorry, Loveland obviously has upside. And he's, beating out Cole Kmet from a target perspective recently. But I will say this, that Loveland, not a great matchup today, number one. And they've got all their playmakers, like Roma Dunze. You've got, DJ Moore this week. You've got Zacchaeus and Luther Burden back. Like, there's just a lot more players to fight for targets with than there is with Otten. Otten is a necessity right now. And this is what we see consistently with Otten over the years, is Otten goes through a lot of periods of irrelevancy, but recently, because of all their struggles, he's been very relevant. So I think for me personally, it kind of be a little nuts to go against Otten, even in a bad weather game. Appreciate the super chat, man. Dez, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. For flex, Watson or Pearsall? Yeah, it's so funny because I said this on the wide receiver start-sit video yesterday. The problem with Pearsall is that obviously being back for the first time off of 8 weeks off or something like that. It felt like a long time without Ricky Pearsall. And being that it's his first week back, you do not want to play him. But you kind of reluctantly play him in a lot of scenarios because he's looked really good. I mean, his year this year, it's clearly been marred by injury, yes. But if you look at Ricky, he's their number 3 receiver right now, and he's only played in 3 games, I think. I mean, he's had 3 games and he's averaging over 100 yards per game. He's so important to this team that it feels a little crazy to bench him. Now, Watson, I actually like him this week. I think over the top against the Giants defense, it definitely could work out. I will say this, though. I think that with Jordan Love playing so bad, it's hard for me to trust any Packers receiver right now. And Brock is back today, which means that him and Ricky should, in theory, do very well. I think, to me, I'd personally play Ricky. It's one of those scenarios where, reluctantly, I am playing Ricky in one of my own leagues, and I would advise a lot of teams do the same. Ricky, to me, is a top 20 wide receiver moving forward. And he has room to grow into a top 12 guy, to be honest. All he has to do is stay healthy. But this week, I'll personally go with Ricky over Watson. Appreciate the super chat, man. Jamie, appreciate the super chat. Who should I play at tight end? T. Johnson or Jake Ferguson? T. Johnson. Why am I blanking on his name? Theo Johnson. Yeah. Theo Johnson or Ferguson. I said it on the tight end rankings video. I think that Theo actually is a good play today. I really do. The only question is he a better play than Ferguson this week? Because Ferguson, to me, I think is going to be a really good play. He, to me, is a top 5 tight end. Now, Theo, I will say this. I think this could be a very interesting day in the Giants and Packers game. It could be a shootout. It honestly would not shock me. I mean, Jameis Winston, we know what he does, man. I mean, Jameis Winston is awesome for fantasy because he gives 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So everyone wins. Defense wins, offense wins. It's a fun, entertaining game. So I do think that Theo really does have upside this week. Man, I get a piece of fuzz floating around my face. HN, big run down to the Washington 6-yard line. They must have muffed a punt. I must have missed that. But yeah, I mean, Theo really does have upside this week, I will say. And he's been very involved recently. So I don't doubt that Theo has a good game. I think where my problem ultimately lies here is that Ferguson is he had the one bad game, right, against Denver because they couldn't drop him, or they had to drop him back in pass protection because that offensive line is unbelievable. Well, the past week against the Cardinals before their bye week, he had 7 targets. Now he had eight fantasy points, but he still had 7 targets. Like, the importance is still there with Ferguson. So I think against the Raiders tomorrow night, like, it just feels like a really good matchup. I'd personally go with Ferguson, but I will say this, like, if you have a gut feeling of Theo Johnson, go with it. Go with your gut, because Theo could be a big play this week. I really do think Theo has like a 20 to 25 point ceiling. Ferguson, I would say, has around that too, but I think he has a safer floor. That's where I'm at with Ferguson. So I would play Ferguson. I do not blame anyone who chooses to play Theo Johnson though. Like, it could work out really, really well for you. Appreciate the super chat. Alias, appreciate the super chat. Saw him close in your rankings. Jaylen Warren versus Harvey. Yeah, they are close in my rankings. And here's my thing is that, again, my only concern with RJ is workload. Like, he definitely is going to get more work today because there's now a necessity for it. Like, he's going to be more involved without J.K. Dobbins moving forward. So in future matchups, based on what happens today, R.J. Harvey could start to sneak into like my top 15 of running back rankings for sure. But we're not there yet, and that's why I like when I was deciding between Tez Johnson or R.J. Harvey, it made more sense for me to go with RJ because RJ Harvey is a guy that is going to get more work today, and I think has a better floor than Tez. When it comes to Warren this week, Warren's got the better matchup, and we don't worry about Warren's workload. Now, Warren's ceiling is capped, I would say, around like 20 points this week, which is solid, but Warren has not been like a massive upside player, but to me is just a much safer play, and probably the upside is close with both these guys this week. Tough matchup for RJ Harvey. I don't see him having like a 25-point game. And I could see, him having like a 17-point game or something like that in full PPR. But with Warren, I could see like 20-point upside. But I can't see Warren doing worse than like 10 points today. Whereas with RJ Harvey, I could see him giving 5. So I'll go with Warren. I think he's just a better play, to be honest with you. But you're right, they were close. Appreciate the super chat. And that is a good reminder. You can get access to my full top 280 rankings with the premium subscription at FS Roundup. You can also get access to the automatic waiver tool, the comparison feature, the league sync-up feature, and you can do starts at polls for free on our site. So you can also do that. Michael Merowitz, appreciate the super chat. Start 2, Jamison Williams, Etienne, Jennings, Franklin, Vidal, Woody, Tez, Pearsall, or Addison. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you being here, man. And then you said Ferg or Gadsden for upside. So the upside play, I think, with Ferg and Gadsden, they both have great upside. It really comes down to we're splitting hairs here because they both have upside. I don't think it's more so of the upside question as it is for the floor. Because they both have, I would say, 20 to 25-point upside this week. They both have good matchups. Gadsden against Jacksonville, Ferguson against the Raiders. They both have really good upside. It's not an upside question for me because they both are about 20 to 25 points. The question really comes down to who's less likely to bust. To me, that's Ferguson. Like, Gadsden last week looked bad. Like, that was before he went down with the injury, which he's going to play this week, which is good. But Gadsden looked bad last week. Like, he dropped a lot of passes against the Steelers. And he was still involved, like 6 targets. That's really good. But Ferguson, outside of one game, which was against the Broncos, where they had to deal with a nasty pass rush, like, he's been hitting a lot of ceiling games. So I do think Ferguson is probably the safer play, and they both have the upside. So I don't think it's an upside question. I think it's a floor because they both have when both players have the same level of upside. Now I want to look at the floor. That's what my process comes down to. And then the other questions were J-Mo, Etienne, Jennings, and Franklin. For me, it's going to be J-Mo and Etienne. Jennings, to me, again, I've said this a lot, and I was wrong last week because he ended up actually giving a solid game. But to me, personally, I think of Jennings as a guy that Jennings is just a guy that at most give you 17 points. I mean, for the most part, though, he's not going to hit that. And especially with Ricky Pearsall back today, I don't have much confidence in Jennings hitting more than 9 points. Like, I think that's kind of his cap this week. So Jennings, to me, is very capped. J-Mo and Franklin is a legitimate discussion we can have. Originally this week, and Michael, I'm not sure if you're a member at FS Roundup, and I'm not sure if you see my rankings, but you know, you can see my wide receiver rankings video, and Franklin and J-Mo were both on there. Franklin was ahead of J-Mo. Now, this week I made that, I actually tinkered with that because with Laporta being out, it increases J-Mo's chances of hitting a better floor game, which ultimately is what it comes down to with J-Mo. We all know that J-Mo's ceiling is ridiculously high. Devon Achane being not helped off the field, but he's limping off the field after being stuffed on fourth down. That's something to watch for. Let's keep an eye on Achane because that would be a bad thing to lose. But yeah, I think really what it comes down to is that with J-Mo, his floor increases for me moving forward without Laporta there because Laporta's going to open up a bunch, right? Because Laporta averages about 6 to 7 targets per game. So without Laporta, I think J-Mo's got a pretty steady floor at this point with Dan Campbell calling the plays now and without Sam Laporta. So for me personally, in his matchup tonight versus the Eagles, not ideal necessarily, but J-Mo it doesn't matter, right? Like, I'm not as concerned with matchup for J-Mo as I am with Franklin. Franklin's not as good of a player, doesn't have as good of a quarterback, and as good of an offense. Dolphins stuffed on fourth down again at the goal line. So it's 13-13. This could very well go to overtime. 1 minute 40 left. Miami has 2 timeouts. They just lost possession. Commanders defense, man. They're coming through. It's a good play for me, and I look pretty good this week with my defense rankings so far. So, but yeah, to me, I'd go with J-Mo now over Franklin. Whereas if we had this discussion on Wednesday, I would have went with Franklin. And then Etienne to me is a better play than Franklin as well. Etienne just has a safer floor, and I would say that he's got a good matchup today. There is a chance that he could hit like a 17-point game. Franklin, I'm having trouble seeing a good ceiling today against the Chiefs. So I'll go with Etienne, and I will go with J-Mo as the 2 there. And then your other one was Vidal, Woody, Tez, Pearsall, or Addison. And I'm assuming we're doing the other start 2 thing. So for me personally, Ricky over Addison for sure. Vidal over Ricky, but it's close. That might be a good one to use the comparison feature for, actually. They're really close. Woody and Ricky are also close. I'll rule out Tez as well because I'll go with all 3 of those guys over Tez. So let's line up Ricky and Woody in the comparison feature really quick. Ricky Pearsall, Woody Marks. So the comparison feature says Ricky, and Ricky is ahead of Woody in my rankings by 7 spots. The comparison feature, the beauty about it is it gives you these other numbers. Ricky has the highest fantasy points per game, most efficient with his touches and targets, and the highest in my rankings. So I'm going to back up the comparison feature on this one. Woody is a good play, I do think. I really do. I think what it comes down to is that I really hate that I think I'm overthinking this, though, because I overthought it a little bit with Travion this past Thursday night, and Travion had a hat trick just against a weaker matchup. I think Woody is a good play. I don't know. I'm going to come back to the Woody versus Ricky argument, But to me, I think Vidal is probably one of them. Because I think if I line up Ricky with Kamani Vidal in the comparison feature, Ricky is 5 spots behind Kamani Vidal, but the comparison feature loves Ricky this week. Bottom line, our site loves Ricky Pearsall this week. But they're 5-spot difference in rankings. I'll back up my rankings on this one and go with Kamani Vidal. And then it comes down to Ricky versus Woody for me, and I'll be honest here. I think that I'm being affected right now by overthinking the Travion discussion a little bit this week, because I told a lot of people to play Travion, but I did tell a select few to bench him in favor of guys like Quinshon Judkins, Saquon Barkley, and that's going to hurt, I think, because he had a hat trick. So I don't want to overthink this with Woody, because Woody's got a great matchup too. Anytime you're playing against a team that can't match you in points, running game should work well. And I overthought the workload with Travion this past week. I'm not going to do it again with Woody. So I think to avoid overthinking it, I'll go with Woody over Ricky. But if it's if it's only one guy, I would personally play Vidal over Woody Marks. That's what I'll say it as. Washington, big play here at the Dolphins 40 with about 57 seconds to go. Still knotted up at 13. Michael, appreciate the super chat, man. Jelly Monster, appreciate the super chat. 2 questions. Keenan Allen or Vidal at the flex, and Jared Goff or Bo at quarterback. So Jared Goff versus Bo it's actually a decision I've had to make myself. Let's line these 2 guys up in the comparison feature, because they're both pretty close to my rankings, but I could tell you I'm leaning Goff for sure. But I just kind of want to see what the comparison feature has to say. So the comparison feature also says Goff 3 spots higher in my rankings than Bo. Most efficient with his, all of his plays. Best fantasy points per snap efficiency. I'm gonna stick with Goff over Bo. Bo is just too low floor, man. He really can just give you nothing and leave you completely shot on the week. And it's not a matchup I like. I don't love Goff's matchup either, particularly, but I do think that Goff's foundation offensively is better than Bo's. Bo is struggling right now, and I just don't. I don't want to put your team in the flames when Bo can be a disaster. So I'd rather go with Goff at quarterback. And again, that's actually a decision I had to make this morning in one of my own lineups too. And I went with Goff. 2 questions, and then your second question was Keenan or Vidal at the flex. Yeah, to me, it's a pretty easy Vidal. If we look at Keenan the past several weeks, he just hasn't been the same guy. And I think a lot of it just has to do with age. When you're an older player, you lose a lot of steam at a certain point. And I think that if you look at the last several games with Keenan, he's 4 targets in week 9, 4 targets in week 10, 5 targets in week 8, and then 14 in week 7. So, they're using him more sparingly. I'm not doubting that he has a ceiling that's still really good, but I kind of wonder if they're trying to keep him a little bit fresher for come playoff time. Whereas Vidal, again, he's the lead back. And just from a touches perspective here, he definitely is a player that I trust more. Oh, my gosh. Washington missed the field goal. 56-yard. They missed it. Oh, my gosh. This game's going to overtime. Was it two straight games, overtime, overseas games? Oh, my gosh. Oh, just wide right. He sliced it. Crazy, man. What the hell? 2 straight, I think. So yeah, I'll go with Vidal and I'll go with Goff. Appreciate the super chat, Jelly Monster. Good to see you in here. Alias, appreciate the super chat. Also got Wandale in addition to RJ and Warren. Wandale makes it a little tougher. Wandale by himself with Jameis, I think the upside is really high. I really do. Let's line Wandale. So, again, RJ is out. So let's line up Jaylen Warren with Wandale. Jaylen Warren with Wandale Robinson. Comparison feature likes Wandale, but my rankings say Jaylen Warren. 6 spots higher than Wandale, but they like Wandale because he's most efficient with his touches and targets. Oh, it's tough, man. That's really tough. Wow. I really don't want to bench Warren this week in a lot of scenarios. And playing Wandale feels sketchy. It does. Because it's not like Wandale's like a over-the-top threat. I mean, Wandale is not like some crazy, wicked, over-the-top speed player. Wandale is like mostly an underneath guy. But, Wandale has had several like big games. Like, if you remember when Neighbors went down and they had no Slayton, he was giving you solid performances. Like week 6 against the Eagles, 20 points. Week 7 against the Broncos, 15 points. Like when they've had Slayton, or when they've not had Slayton, Wandale has done well, man. And they have Jameis today. Fudge. It's tough, man. My gut is telling me Wandale. Shibly. My gut's telling me Wandale. Go with your gut. We lined them up in the comparison feature. They're very close. I've got Warren 6 spots above Wandale, but my gut is telling me Wandale. So go with your gut, but I'm leaning Wandale. Man, that's a close one. Appreciate the super chat, man. Bryant Reed, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. T. Higgins or Roma Dunze at the flex. I will definitely go with Rome because I just feel like he's more of a Rome is just more of a consistent threat in this offense. And T obviously has a ceiling, but T's floor even with Flacco has not been fantastic. I like the matchup a lot for T today. Like I'm not denying that T has upside. T always has upside in reality. But I do feel like T is just a little bit more volatile than Rome. It's a gut call, I would say, but they're not close enough in my rankings for me to justify picking T. I'll go with Rome personally. Appreciate the super chat. Ty Tactical, appreciate the super chat. Where are you, Ty Tactical? Who should I flex? Zay Flowers, Vidal, QJ, or Gadsden? That's tough. Yeah, Gadsden, he throws a wrench in it for sure. I'll rule out Zay because I'd play Vidal over Zay. And I just think that, that's another nasty weather game. Let's check on the weather report on that one too. Ravens, Browns, weather. Ravens, Browns. All right. Ravens wire. Okay. Wind gusts are currently to 38 miles an hour, and there are some lovely white caps on Lake Erie. Should be a fun day to throw and kick. Feels like 36. Wind gusts 34 miles an hour. No rain. It doesn't look like. Dew points 32 degrees. Very dry. Yeah, It's not really the weather that's bothering me here. It's more so about Zay's inconsistency. And safer floor for sure, but I do think that Zay is not my favorite play out of this. So I'll rule out Zay. I'll go with Vidal over Zay. Vidal or QJ, I'll personally go with Vidal. First of all, QJ, I'm assuming he's playing today since I'm getting questions about him. I know he was questionable yesterday. Ready to play. So yeah, QJ's going to play. Banged up. Don't love it. I'll go with Vidal over QJ. Vidal or Gadsden. That's tough. I gotta be honest. I think if I'm thinking things through, the pecking order for me as far as Chargers options this week in fantasy go Ladd, Vidal, Gadsden, QJ, Keenan. That's where I feel like I'm sitting at because Vidal is guaranteed to get work. And it's against a soft defense. They're running the ball really well the last several games. And Gadsden looked bad last week. Like, he did look bad. Now, I'm assuming they're going to continue to work with him. But, yeah, man, I don't know. I think QJ's injury worries me for him. And Gadsden just feels like a little bit of an unsafe play this week. I'm going to go with Vidal personally. That's just me. Appreciate the super chat, man. Okay. Dizzy B, appreciate the super chat. Flex options are Watson, Kenneth Walker, or Bam. Watson, Kenneth Walker, or Bam. Well, I'm not going Bam. Because Watson is a much better play. Watson or Kenneth Walker is what it comes down to. I think for me, Watson, like Kenneth, we just know. Like, we just know what we're getting with Kenneth. And it's so subpar from a ceiling perspective. Dolphins got a pick in overtime, so they're in position to end this game. So Dolphins should win this one probably. Yeah, I think Kenneth, we just know what we're getting with him. And it's just not good enough. You know, like Kenneth, we just know that his ceiling is like been 12 points. And it's just not good enough. And so I just feel like with Watson, I want to take the shot on that upside. Because their floors are just like, yeah, maybe Kenneth can give you 8 points and Watson might give you 4. But who really cares when you can get a 20-point game? In this matchup, man, like, I really do think that this could get weird. Like, I really do think that the Giants and Packers game could get very, very competitive. And with Winston in there, it just changes things. You know, I do think this one has a chance to be competitive. And if that's the case, they're going to need to go over the top of the Giants defense, and it's possible to do that. So I'm going to go with Watson. I think Watson's actually, like, I'm big on Watson this week to a certain extent. I'll go Watson. Appreciate the super chat. Jeremy Cody, appreciate the super chat. Parker Washington versus Vidal, half PPR. Pretty easy. I'll go with Vidal over Parker Washington. Man, I've answered a lot of Vidal today. I hope he does not screw over everybody. Parker Washington, man, again, it just comes down to the guy's ceiling from a receiving perspective is just not there enough. Last week, the only reason he hit his ceiling game is because he got a special teams touchdown as a punt return. Like, it's not there enough for me to feel good about the consistency of it. So Parker just doesn't have that same ceiling as Vidal does. I think Vidal could easily hit 19 points again today. I think it's on the table. Appreciate the super chat. I'll answer the next one here after this play. 19-yard line, Dolphins, timeout, 2nd and 6. Okay. Jeremy Cody, appreciate you again. DK versus Flowers, Harvey versus Rashad White. DK and Zay are in the same range. That's a good one to line up on the comparison feature. DK Metcalf and Zay. They're 6 spot difference. I'm going with DK. The reason I'm going with him is because of the matchup against the Bengals defense. The Browns defense is tougher. From a matchup perspective, the weather is also not great in that game. So I'll go with DK from a matchup perspective. Harvey versus Rachaad White. Yeah, I'll go with Harvey because I think with Rachaad White, like, unless he's getting in the end zone, there's not much upside there. And RJ Harvey, it's been kind of a similar story, but at the same time, for most weeks outside of this past game on Thursday night, he's had receiving involvement that's ironed out a stable floor. So I think that give me no JK, and his involvement is going to go up. So I would personally go ahead and take that upside with RJ. I'll go RJ and DK. Appreciate the super chat. Tommy D, appreciate the super chat. Egbuka, weather, or Woody flex in non-PPR? Well, the weather doesn't bother me. Non-PPR definitely changes things. Like, non-PPR, things get drastically different when you don't have the same level of value on receiving as you do with running. Like, because, I mean, it's official. Dolphins win. Dolphins win in, I think it's London, against the Commanders. So, bummer for Washington. They played really good defense. Defensive perspective, Washington, solid play. Yeah, I think personally that I really do think that personally it's like one of those scenarios where when you're in a non-PPR league, it just changes receiving upside to a pretty drastic degree. And especially, yeah, with the weather, like, it does worry me to a certain extent. Not as much as maybe it does with you, but I can definitely see the argument for it. Non-PPR, I think I would go with Woody. Like, people just have to understand, like, if you're not in if you're not in a non-PPR format, you have to understand, like, how drastic things are different in rankings. Like, you need to undervalue wide receivers compared to running backs severely. So yeah, I think Woody in this matchup, I'd go with Woody. Appreciate the super chat, man. Truthbringer, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Trying to get through a bunch of questions in 16 minutes. So, dart out, Daniel Jones on bye. Options off waiver are Geno, Mills, or Winston. Yuck. What are your thoughts on the three? Yeah, I think I personally think that Winston really does have upside. Like, to me, I think actually Geno low-key does too. Mills doesn't feel like the best upside play, to be honest with you. Let's line up Geno. I know I have Winston ranked over Geno. I'm just kind of curious. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. So let's see how far apart they are. Jameis is 4 spots higher in my rankings than Geno is. So yeah, I think for me, I'm going to stick with my ranking here. The thing with Jameis, man, like, the Packers defense, yes, it's been good. They're banged up, though. And I think that there's something to be said about, like, a team that has no momentum. Like, Jameis Winston, there is just something special about him. Like, there really is. My wife always says he has happy CTE. I think that's, like, a great way to put it for Jameis, because he is just, like, this guy who has this, like, just vibrant energy with him. So I don't know, man. I think Winston is just I think Winston really is just a high upside play. With Geno, I think he has upside. I just lose faith in the lack of pass catching options that are there now without Jacoby Myers. So I'll favor Winston in this one. Appreciate the super chat, man. Good luck on that one. It is a gut call, though. I will say that. Ty Tactical, thank you. Huge fan of the channel. Keep it up. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the super chats as well. And just happy to be a part of you guys' journey, to be honest with you. That's really what it comes down to for me, is it's just fun to be a part of the journey for you guys. Ty from Wyoming, appreciate the super chat. Who should I start full PPR, Swift, Marks, or Harvey? I will go with... they're all relatively close to my rankings. I think my thing with Swift today is the matchup. Just I don't like it, but I do love Chicago's running offense. Yeah, man. I think it's the matchup. And I'll be honest, like my thought process on Woody is changing a little bit because I feel like with Travion this past week, I don't want to make that same mistake again. Like, I think to me, Travion, even telling one person to bench Travion this week, it really affected me watching that happen because it made so much sense after the fact, right? Like, there was tea leaves there that he was going to get a massive workload, and it was a good matchup. In this one, like, the other end, though, that I can't get past in some circumstances is the offensive coordinator did say with Woody, like, we didn't really plan on giving him that big of a workload last week. It just ended up like that from a game script perspective. Basically, what he meant when he said that was that we got down in a hole and we needed the pass-catching running back. Like, that's what that meant. So, like, they're not going to be in a hole today. They're going to be winning. So, I do have this, like, feeling that it could be I really do have this feeling that he could be a Nick Chubb game, but I don't want to make that same mistake again. I think I'm going to go with Woody in this one. Ty from Wyoming. Appreciate the super chat, though. Brandman, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Star 2, London, Genty, or Egbuka. I will personally go with Drake London, and I will also go with Egbuka. I just picked Woody over Egbuka in a non-PPR league, but I personally think that as long as it's not a non-PPR, I'm fine with it. Genty, I think, is a good play as well. Like, you really can't go wrong here. I think ceiling, though, to maximize that, Egbuka has a higher ceiling than Genty this week, and every week, really. So I'll go with London and Egbuka. Appreciate the super chat. Sobir Husseini. Appreciate the super chat. Bench 2, Genty, Chase Brown, Judkins, Harvey, Pickens. I will bench Harvey for sure. And I have trouble benching Pickens in this matchup. I have trouble benching Genty in the matchup as well. I'll go ahead and bench Judkins. Truthbringer, I don't think I skipped your super chat. No, we discussed it. Truthbringer, give me a second and I'll reiterate it, but I did go over it. I did pick Jameis, but give me a minute and I'll go back over it really quick. But yeah, I think to me, benching Genty in the matchup is really tough, and benching Pickens as well is really tough too. So I do think that the three guys that I want to play all have great matchups, right? Like Pickens, the matchup versus the Raiders is great. Genty, the matchup versus the Cowboys is great. Chase Brown, the matchup versus the Steelers is great. Judkins against the Ravens, don't love that. Harvey against the Chiefs, don't love that either. So for me, I'll bench Judkins and Harvey. But appreciate the super chat. Yeah, Truthbringer, just to reiterate it, I'm going to go with Jameis Winston because I think that his upside, man, and just like he's just different, man. Like, he just brings a unique energy to his teams. I mean, we saw it last year with the Browns, and the good thing for fantasy is even if he throws 2-3 picks today, like he can throw 3 touchdowns and kind of make it even Steven. So I really do think that Geno is my second favorite play against the Cowboys. The reason I'm going to stick with Jameis over Geno is because Geno's momentum is so negative, and I don't like his weapons. Don't love Jameis's either, but I don't think that Jameis has the negativity surrounded. And I will also say this. This is a fact. Like, you can look across any situation in any team, and usually what happens after a coach gets fired, there's a bump in energy the following week. And I don't know. I personally don't agree with firing Dable in the middle of the year. That's just me. But maybe the Giants players didn't like him. So I do think that Winston is the best play. But again, appreciate it. And just wanted to go through that again. Make sure you got your answer. Scott Cordzel, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Traded DK and Ladd for McLaurin and Rico and no PPR. Have CeeDee and Egbuka, but lost wide receiver depth. Did I win the trade? Would you start Purdy or Caleb in 6 touchdown, and would you rather have Boswell or Fairbairn rest of season? So from a non-PPR perspective, again, that changes the value of wide receivers drastically. Like, you cannot look at wide receivers as an equivalent to running backs. Like, for example, I think the best example is, like, Puka Nacua is having a great year, right? Like, Puka Nacua is one of the best wide receivers in fantasy, but his problem has been he's not a big touchdown guy, and he's a big yardage guy and a big catches guy. I would not value Puka the same as I would value James Cook in a non-PPR league, or even someone like, through his struggles, Saquon Barkley or Rico Dowdle or Kyron Williams. Like, they're just not on the same playing field because those guys get running touchdowns and they can also get receiving yards through the air. When you're a wide receiver, all of your yardage comes from catching the ball, unless you're Debo, and you don't have that same level of upside unless you're getting in the end zone, right? So, like, for DK, like, trading away DK and Ladd, both, like, Ladd for sure is more of a PPR guy, and DK, I would say, is a big play guy, but it hasn't been working that much. I don't love getting McLaurin, but again, I think getting Rico makes tons of sense because, again, non-PPR is just way different than full PPR. So if you told me you did this trade in full PPR, I'd question it a little bit, even though I'm okay with it either way, because giving up Ladd is what hurts the most, but giving up DK is not great either, but getting Rico is great. So I do like it. Don't love that you lost wide receiver depth, but again, you just can't value wide receivers the same as running backs. Purdy or Caleb in a 6 touchdown, I'd go with Brock in a 6-point passing touchdown. Caleb, I don't envision throwing more than like 2 touchdowns today. And Brock, I can see him throwing 3, like 3 or 4. And with Caleb, obviously, there's the rushing upside. But I think Caleb will have a little bit of a struggle-ish day. Not that I'm benching Caleb in all situations, all formats, but I do prefer Brock in a 6-point passing touchdown. Appreciate the super chat. Oh, yeah, and then Boswell or Fairbairn rest of season. Is Fairbairn healthy? Let's check on that. Kaimi Fairbairn. He's not playing this week. I mean, I in theory, I kind of am leaning towards Fairbairn, but they're very close, and Boz is just so automatic that I'd rather just stick with the Boz, considering Fairbairn's got injury issues. Because, we've seen players come back from injury, kickers come back, and then not kick with the same accuracy. So I think I'd stick with the Boz. Appreciate the super chat. Lawrence Paliagas, appreciate the super chat. RJ Harvey or Aaron Jones? I would go with RJ Harvey. Yeah, RJ Harvey to me, higher upside player, similar floor, And out of necessity now, I think there's going to be more involvement, and it increases his safety of a floor play. I think his floor is probably around 8 to 10 points this week, whereas Aaron Jones probably the same, but I think RJ's upside is better. Appreciate the super chat. Rachel Cruz, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Baker or Flacco? I would personally go ahead and play good old Joey. My intuition is that it'll be a shootout, and the Steelers defense can't hang from a passing perspective. They're actually getting worse too. They're losing guys on the back end. So Joe Flacco is pretty well ranked for me this week. I like Joe, and Baker's got a weather game. I like Baker a lot, but hasn't been great for fantasy. Joe Flacco has been. I'll go with Joe. Appreciate the super chat. Juan Mraz, appreciate the super chat. Lamar or Flacco for today's matchup? That's tough, man. It's so hard to bench Lamar. Like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can bench Lamar. I think what it comes down to is that Lamar just has, like, that rushing upside. And in a game like today where it could get nasty weather-wise, like, I think I got to go with Lamar. I think Flacco is a really good play. And for the record, he may do better, and I might look stupid. I don't think I can go against Lamar, though. Like, I think Lamar is the better play. It's tough, man, because we're talking about a player who's great, just has a much tougher matchup, versus a player that ultimately what scares me with Flacco is that he could get injured if he gets sacked once today. Like, it feels very House of Cards. So that's why, like, I'm reluctant to play Flacco over, like, top-tier guys, but I'm okay with playing him over guys like Caleb, over guys like Baker, Jordan Love, Bo Nix, Jared Goff, because I feel like his upside is higher, and with Lamar, the upside may be a little higher than Lamar, but I don't think it's as safe. So I'll go with Lamar. Appreciate the super chat. G Medina, appreciate the super chat. Half PPR, go Flowers, Jennings, Franklin. Jennings is out. I'm not playing Jennings with Ricky Pearsall back. Franklin or Flowers? I'll go with Troy Franklin in that scenario because I think that he's been the wide receiver one. I would not be surprised either if Bo Nix has a bounce back game. I really wouldn't. It wouldn't shock me whatsoever. They're close, though. I'd say it's more of a gut call, but I'll go with Franklin. Appreciate the super chat. Okay, I'm going to try to run through as many as possible in the next 2 minutes. Sutton, Jennings, J-Mo, Trey Tucker at the flex. I would personally go with J-Mo. Start 2, Franklin, Woody, Vidal. I would go with Woody and Vidal. Odunze, Chase, or Woody. Full PPR. I would personally go with Chase Brown. Rashad White or Kyron. I would go with Kyron. Devontae Adams or Ricky Pearsall. I'd go Devontae Adams. Mark Andrews or Cade Otton. I'll go with Mark Andrews. They're both in bad weather games. I'll get touchdown upside. Goff or Caleb. I will go with I'll go with Goff. Rashad White, Tet McMillan. I will go with Tet. Pickens or Devonta. I'll go with Pickens. Wandale, Odunze, or Metcalf. I will go with Odunze. RJ or Pickens. I'll go with Pickens. Wandale, AJ Brown, Chase Brown, or Swift. I will personally go with Chase Brown. Lad McConkey, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams. I will go with pick 2. I'll go with Devontae and Lad. Wandale, Pearsall, Parker, Washington, Jennings, Sutton, Keenan. I will go with Wandale and Ricky. All right, guys, it's noon. Let's enjoy the day. Appreciate y'all being in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel on your way out. Join FS Roundup. Start a start-sit poll for free. Vote on polls for free. Join the premium subscription if you feel so kind and want to support the channel over here. You'll get access to my weekly top 250 rankings, the automatic waiver tool, the comparison feature we've gone through, and the league sync-up feature, and get a team breakdown from me. Get ready for the playoffs. Get a team breakdown from me. Personalized advice. So Love you guys. Let's enjoy the day today. And I'll see you guys in here tomorrow. Peace out.